Good morning, I'm Kara Rucker. It's Tuesday, March 11th, and these are your Unbiased Updates. As lawmakers get ready to take a break, the House is looking to pass a budget resolution to keep the government open ASAP, but that may be easier said than done. And as U.S. and Ukraine officials are set to meet today to talk ending the war with Russia, Moscow says Kyiv has launched its biggest aerial attack to date.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world, these are today's Unbiased Updates.
As the government shutdown looms this week, House Republicans are meeting today to vote on a spending bill that would keep the government open through September. As Straight Arrow News political correspondent Ray Bogan shows us, Republicans need near unanimous support to get it done.
Congress has 4 days left to approve a spending package where the federal government will shut down Friday, March 14th at 11:59 p.m. House Republican leadership proposed what's called a continuing resolution, or a near copy and paste of the current budget. That will last until September 30th. The bill increases military spending by $6 billion and decreases non-defense spending by $13 billion. House Democratic leadership already said their members will vote no, while President Trump asked Republicans to fall in line. President Trump wrote on social media, "We have to remain united, no dissent. All Republicans should vote, please, yes." House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries stated, "The partisan House Republican funding bill recklessly cuts health care, nutritional assistance, and $23 billion in veterans' benefits." Republicans appear to have already lost one vote, which means they can't lose another or the measure will fail. Congressman Thomas Massie wrote on X, "Unless I get a lobotomy Monday that causes me to forget what I've witnessed the past 12 years, I'll be a no on the CR this week." The House likely has one chance to hit a home run, or they're out, because they are in fact out for the rest of the week. Democrats are hosting their annual retreat in Virginia, so the current schedule has them voting on Tuesday night and leaving. If it's approved, the legislation then heads to the Senate where it needs 60 votes. That will require at least 7 Democrats to vote in favor, and they're lining up in opposition. Senator Tim Kaine said hell no to the CR. He called it a shutdown bill that's bad for the economy.
That was our political correspondent Ray Bogan reporting. If the House passes the bill tonight, but the Senate makes changes to it, the House will have to return to D.C. to approve the updated version because the House and Senate must agree on identical versions of the resolution before it can be sent to President Trump to sign. Stock markets across Asia sank Tuesday morning amid fears of an economic downturn in the world's largest economy. The downturn in Asian markets comes on the heels of a particularly bad day for U.S. stocks after President Trump didn't rule out a possibility of a recession. Straight Arrow News business correspondent Simone Del Rosario has more.
Markets continued to fall on Monday as President Donald Trump declined to rule out a recession during an interview with Fox News.
Are you expecting a recession this year?
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. And there are always periods of, it takes a little time. It takes a little time.
Well, his Commerce Secretary was more definitive in his comments.
Should Americans brace for a recession?
Absolutely not. Anybody who bets against Donald Trump, it's like the same people who thought Donald Trump wasn't a winner a year ago. Donald Trump is a winner. He's going to win for the American people. That's just the way it's going to be. There's going to be no recession in America.
Markets have been reeling in recent weeks as investors worry about the impact the president's tariffs could have on U.S. consumers and the economy as a whole. The extent of the tariffs continues to take shape. Last month, Trump announced he would impose 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada. He then delayed the levies for a month, taking effect Tuesday of last week. On Wednesday, he offered tariff relief for American automakers for 30 days. By the end of the week, Trump put a hold on tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada covered by the USMCA until next month. Last week, the S&P 500 and tech-heavy NASDAQ each lost more than 3%. Meanwhile, the Dow went down 2.4%. Markets went on a bit of a tear after President Trump won the election in November. But as of Monday, the S&P 500 and NASDAQ have given up all of those gains and are now below the level seen on Election Day. No matter how much the stock market struggles, it doesn't necessarily mean a recession is in the works. Traditionally, the U.S. enters a recession if it faces 2 consecutive quarters of declining economic activity. At this time, we're nowhere close to that. The economy grew at an annual rate of more than 2% last quarter. But really, even 2 quarters of decline doesn't always cut it. A group of 8 economists at the National Bureau of Economic Research are tasked with taking a more nuanced approach to declaring an official recession. The folks who make that decision say a recession involves a significant decline in economic activity that is spread across the economy and lasts more than a few months. Currently, you're not seeing that full-throated warning that a downturn is in the offing. Some headlines point to concerns. Newsweek cites economists being increasingly worried about a recession. CNBC writes economists see the president as an agent of chaos and confusion, but don't see a recession as inevitable yet. But even if there is that full-throated warning, that alone does not spell a recession. Remember that in 2022 and again in 2023, many economists fully expected the U.S. to enter a recession that never happened.
That was Simone Del Rosario reporting. Goldman Sachs on Monday said it was downgrading its economic growth forecast for 2025. They originally had it at 2.4%, but dropped it to 1.7%. They cited President Trump's trade policies for the downgrade prediction. On Monday's edition of Unbiased Updates, we told you about a former Columbia student's arrest over his ties to leading mass pro-Palestinian protests on campus. Federal officials accuse him of supporting the terrorist organization Hamas after President Trump signed an executive order against anti-Semitism. Now a federal judge has blocked the deportation of Mahmoud Khalil, who is currently held in a Louisiana detention facility. The judge ordered a hearing for Wednesday. On news of his arrest, protests erupted in New York City's streets in support of Khalil. NBC reports hundreds of people showed up demanding his release from custody. Khalil's attorney says he is a U.S. green card holder and was detained unlawfully, asking the judge to have him return to New York. Reacting to the news of Khalil's arrest, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the Trump administration will work to revoke student visas and green cards of Hamas supporters. Turning now to the war between Russia and Ukraine, as U.S. officials prepare to meet with Ukrainian officials for peace talks today. Russia says it was hit overnight with Kyiv's largest cross-border aerial attack since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion in 2022. Russia's defense ministry said its forces shot down 337 Ukrainian drones over 10 different regions, nearly 100 of them over Moscow alone. Meanwhile, Reuters is reporting Ukraine's Air Force said it shot down a ballistic missile and 79 of 126 drones launched by Russia in an overnight attack of its own. Ahead of today's peace talks in Saudi Arabia, Secretary of State Marco Rubio told reporters the only way to end the war is for Ukraine to make concessions over land that Russia took control of in 2014, emphasizing both sides will need to make concessions. Ukraine has long said a ceasefire agreement that includes giving up land occupied by Russia is a non-starter. The Ukrainian government has also called for the Kremlin to pay reparations for the war. A former Philippines president was arrested at an airport on a warrant issued by the International Criminal Court, or ICC. 79-year-old Rodrigo Duterte was returning to the Philippines from a visit to Hong Kong, taken into custody at an airport in the Philippines capital. Duterte was elected president in 2016, known by a few nicknames like the Punisher for his years-long campaign against drug offenders when he was a mayor prior to his presidency. He continued that campaign, a crackdown against illegal drugs at the presidential level, but the ICC has been investigating what they call a deadly war on drugs, with at least 6,000 people executed in a take-no-prisoner approach to the issue. In cell phone video taken at the scene, you can hear Duterte asking what crime he committed. The current president of the Philippines confirmed to news outlets he's currently in custody and could be handed over to the ICC. Finally this morning, first responders are always there to help, even for those whose definition of emergency may be a little off. Like this Wisconsin 4-year-old whose call for help is going viral.
This is Racine County 911. What's the address of the emergency?
My mom is in bed.
I ate his ice cream, so that's probably why he's calling 911.
Even though the 911 turned out to not be an emergency, police still check things out after every call they get. And when they showed up, the boy doubled down, asking them to take his mom to jail. Understanding the severity of the issue, the officers let the boy put his mom in handcuffs to teach her a lesson. Then they taught him a lesson about the proper use of 911. Still, they showed up the next day, going above the call of duty with ice cream in hand. Oh, and in case you're wondering, the boy did drop the charges against his mom. I know my dad is watching this, waiting for me to tell the story of when I dialed 911 as a kid. I did. It was not over ice cream, but it was for a Sailor Moon toy that I had seen on an infomercial, and 911 was the only number I knew to call. I got in a lot of trouble for that, though, and I did not get the toy that I wanted, and I didn't get ice cream, so that story has a lot different of an ending. Thank you for watching Unbiased Updates for this Tuesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Kara Rucker. Have a great day.